Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And I'm really excited about this episode because this is one of the first episodes we've done since it has become official that Kellen Moore is now the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints. I mean, we talked about that, of course, his press conference and some of the things that he wants to bring to the table. But now he's starting to put in the work. The Super Bowl parade is over with the Philadelphia Eagles, where he was the offensive coordinator. And now he shifts his attention to trying to rebuild the credibility of the New Orleans Saints. But speaking of trying to build. I ask that everybody subscribe to this channel. Please subscribe. Please, pretty please, with sugar on top. All right. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoy everything that we're doing over here, I just ask that you hit the like button so we can grow as a channel. Shouts out to everybody in the chat right now. Really do appreciate it. I want to give much love to Jerry. I see him in there. It's JT, Dana, Cartel. We also have let's see. We got Nolans in here. Got Kathleen, Mad Drummer, and we got Shell up in here as well. So shouts out to you and so many others that make this show what it is. We're going to be getting into that. We're also going to be talking about a Super Bowl champion offensive lineman that some people are saying, reporters are saying that could possibly land with the New Orleans Saints. We'll get into that a little bit later, but let's go ahead and get into it. I'm pretty sure if you heard already, Kellen Moore has hit the ground running with his coaching staff search. We know that he has interviewed with a few people already, for the defensive coordinator job. Also, the offensive coordinator job, he is looking and interviewing people for that job as well. But there's two individuals that are on his radar on the defensive side of the football. We'll start there first. It is Eagles defensive backs coach Christian Parker, as well as assistant coach Brandon Staley of the San Francisco 49ers, the former Los Angeles Chargers head coach, former defensive coordinator of the Rams. He led that defense to their 2021 championship back a few years ago, and he got a head coaching job in the process. And he wasn't the worst head coach you ever seen. The Chargers were able to make the postseason at least one of the years he was there. There were a couple like one possession games that he lost. So Brandon Staley, all in all, is a really good defensive coordinator. Me personally, I like both guys. I think that both individuals symbolize a change. And it also will mean that possibly a change would come defensively in the way that the Saints attack the offense when it comes to their defense. So it's going to be a little bit of a difference, but I think that's what Saints fans want. They want different. They want something that they're not used to seeing. And I don't have an issue with that at all. If you've been trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, it's time for a change. You'll go insane, because that is the definition of insanity. I like Kellen Moore. I already said this. That press conference kind of won me over. I just like the fact that he just about playing football. He's just about coaching football. He's just about the X's and the O's, and trying to do the best job possible. You can tell like he's not a really big rah-rah guy. You can tell like he's not going to stand in front of a room and motivate people to a point where they're going to run through a brick wall and go absolutely insane inside of the locker room. But I just think that if you can put together a game plan, put one together that equals success, I don't care if you're yelling to the top of your lungs or you're as quiet as a church mouse, guys are going to follow you. And that's something that is extremely important. Now, both of these defensive coordinators, to me, would come in with a different type of attitude. You know that Brandon Staley, when he was with the Chargers, they had one of the best pass rush in football. Now, it does help that you had Khalil Mack on one side and Joey Bosa on the other. I mean, that's a recipe for success. But you also had some question marks in the secondary, but they were still able to maintain success. I do look at the Saints and the way that the Philadelphia Eagles defense is structured, and I have to believe that more than likely Kellen Moore is going to want to build his defense in that particular image, or he might leave that up to the defensive coordinator. But I have a feeling that he wants that defense to resemble that of the Philadelphia Eagles. So to me, I'm just wondering, like, what is that going to do, and what does that say about some of the talent that they have on this team? Now, we know that the Saints have talent on the defensive side of the football. They are talented. The question is, are they good enough to be able to make that transition to the defense if the Saints change some things up just a tad bit? Kellen Moore, to me, I don't think that he has an issue with a 3-4 or a 4-3. I think he wants something that works. I think that nobody should have an issue with that. I mean, if you can transition to a 3-4 defense and it works, hey, but you will have to change out the personnel. I don't know if you remember, like a couple of years ago, where the New Orleans Saints wanted to run a 3-4. Well, Sean Payton wanted to. So, you know, they kind of changed some things out. That's when they brought in Jarius Byrd and all of other guys that they felt would help the defense be successful. And it was an unmitigated disaster. I mean, guys were getting beat, smoked like brisket, burnt like a biscuit. So you got to make sure that you have the right personnel if you're going to make that type of transition. I also feel like regardless to if the Saints transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4, man, regardless, even if you stay at a 4-3, I think that you need to change some things around. The defense, to me, was a tad bit slower than years past, but that happens when the majority of the guys on the defensive side of the football are a little bit up there in age. No, it's not a knock on them. They still have the talent that they possess, from years ago. They still have the wherewithal to be able to make plays. But, I mean, Father Time is undefeated. That's just the reality of it. I mean, a lot of us, in our 30s or in our 40s, there were things that you can do in your 20s you just can't do now. I mean, you want to, but it just doesn't happen. It takes you maybe a extra second to process what you're trying to do or what you're trying to say. That just comes with the territory. But I just think that you need to get a little bit faster on the defensive side of the football. But that leads to the NFL draft, which we'll get to in the upcoming weeks. I'm looking forward to covering the NFL draft as time goes on, as well as the combine coming up next week. But you're going to have to change some things around. You're going to have to improve on the defensive side of football, regardless to what direction that you go in. I believe that Brandon Staley more than likely will be the defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints. If you think about the relationship between Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley, they were on coaching staffs together. We know that Brandon Staley hired Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator with the Chargers when Brandon Staley was there. So I see Kellen Moore returning the favor and hiring Brandon Staley as his defensive coordinator, kind of switching roles there. I like that, Brandon Staley has had experience as a head coach, whether it was bad or good. I like the fact that he comes in with a plan. We know that he comes in with some cachet. The Rams defense was really, really good, the best in the NFL during that time when they went to the Super Bowl. So I expect for the Saints to maybe be built to that particular standard. So that's what it's all about, building the standard. That was a word that a lot of the front office personnel were using, the standard. What is the standard of the New Orleans Saints. Well, some of you can remember when the standard was extremely low, like lower than it is right now. Like it was really bad. Like it was so bad that you didn't even have standards. Winning on Sunday was a new standard. That's how bad it was. But now, they transition to more of a respectable team. So the standard that a lot of you that's probably watching this right now, it's a standard that you are used to, a winning culture, having a sense of pride when it comes to the team. And fans want to get back to that. I mean, I know I do. But Kellen Moore has his work cut out for him, but I believe that he has the knowledge. He's smart enough. He has the intellect to be able to do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to build this coaching staff. I'm going to read some of your comments. Then we'll go to the offensive side of the football and talk a little bit about some of the candidates that they have over there. But before I get into your comments, I do want to acknowledge the sponsor here on the State of the Saints podcast, which is BETUS. Very appreciative to BETUS, working with them throughout the NFL season. And right now you can sign up and get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. Use the promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. But let me go ahead. I'm going to try to pull up for a second some of the candidates that they want to interview for the offensive side of the football. So, all right. So I do know that the one person that is on the list, I'm pretty sure, is Doug Nussmeier, someone that has traveled with Kellen Moore quite a bit. Also, the running backs coach of the Philadelphia Eagles as well is on the list as well. So going to go ahead and get into that in just a minute. Wanted to make sure that was up on the screen so I can be able to talk about it. We'll start with Kathleen. Dana giving a shout out to Kathleen. I'm going to scroll down a little bit because I know a lot of the comments at the top, mostly just pleasantries. And I appreciate that, man. Shouts out to everybody. And every time I see the comments, I'm seeing people acknowledging others. It's just so wonderful to see the community that we built over here on this channel. So I appreciate you all. It says, TJ, I don't know if the Saints will be any good over the next 3 years, but I can't remember the last time I've been this excited at this point in the season, says Juvie. Well, let me tell you something, Juvie. I'm excited as well. Look, I think everybody is pretty much prepared for a rebuild, regardless to if Mickey Loomis is saying that, regardless to if Gail Benson is saying it or Dennis Lauscher or whoever's in the front office. We know what it is, right? It's going to be a process. And if the Saints come out the gate and they look respectable, I think that would be good enough to kind of appease some of the Saints fans, because the expectation at this point is just so low. I mean, there's no disrespect to the players. It's just reality, man. You think about some of the tough decisions that they're going to have to make contractual wise. You're probably going to be saying goodbye to Taysom Hill, which we'll talk about later on in the week. I feel like that would be a show that we just want to be able to talk about Taysom just alone, because he deserves that. But there's so many different things that they need to do. So if you can go into 2025 and look respectable, I think it will give Saints fans optimism about the future. But I'm not going to say that it's going to be a tough 2 to 3 years, because this is 1 year in 2025 where they're trying to get the cap right. I mean, all these bad practices that they've done over the years, kicking the can down the road, feeling like the window was more open than what it actually was. They paid the price for it. I mean, if you had a championship to I guess, to show for it, nobody would care, right? I mean, we see teams go for broke all the time. They bet on themselves and they win. But in the Saints case, they didn't. I mean, you can talk about 2018. That was probably the best chance that they had. We all know the story of that. We've heard that over and over again. It definitely makes us frustrated as Saints fans. But the reality is, you kick the can down the road. You thought the window was open and it wasn't. So 2025, you're paying the price for it. 2026, it gets a little bit better. And after that, you start to be able to build up your salary cap. But the best way the Saints can get out this situation, and I've said this on several occasions, is you got to be able to build through the draft. You got to be able to build through the draft. if you are going to find success. I mean, plain and simple. No free agent is going to come here that you can afford that is going to change your misfortunes. So it's going to have to take intelligent people making intelligent football decisions to get the Saints out of this situation. They're going to have to put their pride to the side. Some of the things that they probably thought would work, they got to be able to, like I said, put that ego to the side. If somebody comes up with a better idea or a better, better practices, I think that they need to listen. You can't just be so hell-bent on trying to be right, because I feel like that's what got you in this situation in the first place. You're trying to prove people wrong because you hear the noise. Regardless if you want to admit it or not, you hear the noise. So forget about the noise. Like, forget about what I'm saying. Forget about, with all due respect, what you all are saying. The reality is you got to be able to build through the draft. And, you got to get some people up in here that's going to make some really good decisions. They got a really good coach, in my opinion, and somebody that's smart that's going to be able to do that. But they got to be able to trust him. Like, you can't just say, oh, he's our coach, but you got to be able to trust him, because over the last couple of years, you have not done the right things to help this team find success. I mean, a couple of those years we can chunk up to just a bad coaching hire in Dennis Allen. Should have left Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator and maybe hired somebody, that could have coached the offensive side of the football. And I don't even think we would be having this conversation. If Dennis Allen would have remained DC, and they wouldn't have been so afraid to turn the page from the Sean Payton era, then I don't think we would be having this conversation. Like, if you would have went out here and got Kevin O'Connell, or you would have went out here and got someone else, that probably doesn't have like the name, but as we can see over the last couple of years, it's been those guys that we don't really know that much about are the ones that's finding success. If you would have did that, then I feel like the Saints would have been in a better position, and they probably would have been where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are right now, which is dominating the NFC South. You may not want to admit it, folks, but y'all know how I do it. I try to keep it as real as I possibly can. So bad decisions has gotten the Saints to this point. So a lot of pride got to be put to the side in order for them to fix this situation. I know that was a long, drawn-out response, but I feel like it was necessary to say. Brandon says the rah-rah stuff works when you're winning games. Once you start losing, players start to tune out the rah-rah speeches. Yeah, man, people want to believe that you know what you're doing, Brandon. I mean, I agree with that. Like, it's like, well, when you're at work or, just anything in life, right? I mean, we all want to believe that we're leaders, right? We don't want to be followers. We all feel like we're leaders, right? But what makes you a leader? A person believing that you have what it takes to navigate them through, uncharted waters, to be able to know what to do in adverse situations. And, it's good that you can have somebody that has those rah-rah speeches in their back pocket. If it's accompanied by success, if it's accompanied by knowledge, if it's accompanied by some winning, right? But if you just up here yelling to the rooftops and, telling people to win one for the Gipper, and you ain't winning one for the Gipper at all, I mean, it just, you become tone deaf, right? So you want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row, as they say, right? I mean, Kellen Moore, he doesn't have to be a rah-rah guy. I think that's like a stereotype that we've kind of leaned into as sports fans. We feel like a coach got to be all upset, wringing his hat, turning red in the face, looking like a tomato, breaking his headset, knocking down a Microsoft tablet, Tom Brady style. Like, that doesn't make you a really good coach. Some coaches, that fire guys up, it probably will get a guy, more motivated. But when it comes down to the X's and the O's, when I need to make a play, can you dial something up to get me into the end zone or get me into field goal range or get that sack in order for us to be able to get the ball back when the last 2 minutes are on the clock? Those are the things that matter. If you don't have that, all the rah-rah speeches in the world, like Brandon alluded to, does not matter. So if you want to be able to win some football games, I guarantee you better know what the heck you're doing, because you can rah-rah this and rah-rah that. If you ain't winning no football games, guys are going to be in their locker tweeting telling their girlfriend, meet me downstairs, man. We about to get up out of here. That's what's going to happen. So you got to come with a plan. I understand that people they feel like a coach has to look a certain way. His disposition has to be a certain way. Man, there's different ways that you can approach being a coach. I mean, some guys are rah-rah guys. Other guys are just kind of mild-mannered, but they know what the heck they're doing. Plain and simple. Scrolling down a little bit, says you'll be interested to see what they do with Carr, Cam, DeMario, Tyron, and Taysom. Yeah, I agree with that, Brandon. Let's see. Rico also says, I think we will be okay. We won't be at the bottom of the league. I don't know where the Saints are going to land. Like, I'm telling y'all right now, y'all know me, man. I don't try to talk people off the ledge. Like, I give my opinion based on like how I feel about a certain situation, things that I read, etc. Am I right sometimes? Yes. Am I wrong? Yes. But all I know is I just want to see improvement. That'll be good enough for me. Now, if we talking about improvement in 2026 and we still talking about the same stuff and it's pretty much the same thing, then I feel like, all right, now we have to have a conversation. But I'm not going into 2025 really critiquing Kellen Moore harshly. Like it's to me, it's hard for me to honestly sit up here or get behind a microphone and have these high expectations for this guy based on his respect, his respectability, his credibility in the league. Like it's a hard job for anybody. I don't care if it was a 6-time Super Bowl winning coach like Belichick. I don't care if it's Andy Reid. It would be tough. If you think about some of the decisions that the Saints have to make, like this is a tough situation for anybody to come in and find success. If he exceeds any type of expectations, like I think that Saints fans should be proud. I think they should realize and see, man, we got the right guy as the head coach. If we're looking similar to what they were in 2024, then I feel like, I still probably would give him opportunity because I think about with Dan Campbell, like when he first got to Detroit, I want to say they only won like 3 games. And then after that, they started to turn things around. They started to draft really well. They started bringing in some players that can make some noise. And the next thing you know, I mean, they contenders. And they still trying to figure it out. But I guarantee you, a Detroit Lion fan will tell you, I'd rather be upset and sad about having a deep run in the postseason to be sad and depressed and knowing that my season is over by Thanksgiving. And most of the time, the games that are nationally televised is on Thanksgiving because my team is terrible. So you're trending in the right direction. And that's the only thing that you can actually ask for. I just think that anybody is up here expecting Santa Clara tickets to the Super Bowl, I just think that that's just wishful thinking at this point. I'm willing to give Kellen Moore a chance. I'm not going to critique him harshly. Now, we got to be fair about this. When we're watching games and some of the decision making is questionable, yes, we will talk about it. But I'm not going to sit up here and talk about fire the man, this, that, and the third if the Saints just so happen to lose, quite a few games. I think we have to be prepared for that. I understand how that feels right now. Like it's one thing actually saying something, but to actually see it see it right in front of your eyes happening in real time is a different story. So I'm just getting people prepared. Like I'm kind of even keel with this because I don't know what to expect. I mean, the Saints have talent. It's not like a lot of the situation. I will agree with Mickey Loomis in this regard. Injuries had something to do with it, but it wasn't the entire story. You still had talent. If they were able-bodied, you probably would have won more games. That is true. But to believe that you actually like win a division or something, I just feel like nah. Because you went into the season, you went into the season pretty much hoping and praying that everything works out and your players, your starters can stay healthy enough in order for you to be able to weather the season. Because there's such a huge drop-off between your starter and a backup. That's the problem with player development. That's their issue because they haven't developed those players that's underneath to a point where they can actually come in and fill in and have some production and maybe make it interesting going into the next season. I mean, you can honestly, it is pretty evident that the player that replaces the starter is not that good and not even touching the starter. So you have to ask yourself the question, why is that? All right, but let's go ahead and move on, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the offensive, coordinators that the Saints will be talking to. This individual has been with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was the running backs coach and assistant head coach, Jamal Singleton. He's interviewing with the New Orleans Saints for the offensive coordinator vacancy, and as well as you probably have to throw in Doug Nussmeier as well. I'm not sure upon the making of this video. I haven't heard anything about Doug Nussmeier joining the staff, but I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by this. And look, I got to say this too, and I don't mean to sound harsh when I say this. I really don't, but it needs to be said. All these Philadelphia Eagle fans out here that's talking about, oh man, the New Orleans Saints, they trying to take our play, they trying to take our coaches, they trying to take this, take that. Can I interest you in Ian Book? Can I interest you in CJ Gardner-Johnson? Can I interest you in Zach Bond? Can I interest you in Malcolm Jenkins? Can I interest you in Darren Sproles? Can I interest you in Boston Scott? And I mean, those are just 6 guys that I just popped, just popped out there. So I just find it hilarious that they just feel like, oh man, the Saints just biting from them when they have been biting from the New Orleans Saints for I don't know how long. Like, pump your brakes. Congratulations on winning the Super Bowl championship, but let's not act as if the Philadelphia Eagles haven't, plucked a leaf or two from the New Orleans Saints tree here. Like, let's calm down here. But the reality is, I'm not surprised by this because Kellen Moore, he already had some guys that were part of his coaching staff. I mean, he has a rapport with these guys with the Philadelphia Eagles. Singleton is somebody that's highly regarded around the National Football League. They feel like he's extremely instrumental in the way that the running game was successful in Philadelphia. I mean, it does help that you have Saquon Barkley as your running back. And, all I'm saying is I expected this. I mean, it's kind of the same way when, Clint Kubiak, he goes to Seattle as the offensive coordinator. He brings along Andrew Janocko. He brings the other coaches that were with the New Orleans Saints. I want to say Ty Grantham, I think is someone, if he hasn't been signed already or hired already, someone that, that they were looking at. So all I'm saying is the reality is that's just the way that it goes. That's just the way that it goes, man. Like they want to take the coaches that they had success with. And, if you can actually build the New Orleans Saints, offense up and have the offensive line looking respectable, if you can actually have a running game accompanied by a passing attack, I think that's great. And this is the reality too. When teams win, other teams that weren't as successful, they want some of that. They want to win too. So they're going to see, what did you do in order to win? Like, who was on your coaching staff? Okay, I can't get your defensive coordinator, but I can get the guy that was next to your defensive coordinator. I mean, I don't see no problem with it. But I also just find it hilarious, seriously. I just find it hilarious that we even having this conversation when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, seriously, like, definitely, the Philadelphia Eagles have definitely picked from the Saints tree throughout the years. And the players that they got have been the main reasons why they found success for the most part. Y'all remember like when Darren Sproles went to Philadelphia? You remember when Malcolm Jenkins became one of the faces of the entire team. I mean, Zach Bond, the first team All-Pro. So, yeah. I mean, turnabout is fair play, right? So if you can find players, that can give you success, if you can find coaches that can give you success, why the heck not? So, like I say, congratulations on the Super Bowl championship, man. But I don't know, man. When people start winning, man, they start getting a little arrogant and they forget about the past a little bit. Like, oh yeah, we've been doing this, yo. Okay, yeah, we ain't, Saints ain't where they need to be right now. But let's not act like the Philadelphia Eagles haven't, y'all know what I'm talking about. I mean, they signed Saints players. No, I mean, I will give the organization credit in this regard. They have done a better job with utilizing the players that they got from the Saints than what the Saints did. Well, not so much with Darren Sproles, but Malcolm Jenkins was a much better player. Dak Bond, obviously, a much better player. CJ Gardner-Johnson, better player. Like, you got to give them credit in that regard, but they're going to stop acting like the Saints, not a A+ organization. A+ organization when it comes to decision making over the last 4 years. Yes, I agree with them on that. All right, it has not been A+, but some of the things that, like, it's like, to me, the Saints organization is like someone that buys like a luxury vehicle and just parks it in a garage. And somebody comes over to their house and be like, man, wow, man, this is a beautiful car right here. Oh, man, you like that? Yeah, man, it's nice. Like, how long you had this? I had about 2 or 3 years now, man, but I don't never take it anywhere. Man, you mind if I give it a test drive? Oh, man, shoot, man. Any one of these, you're fine. Like, that's the way that it is, right? Like, they got these thoroughbreds, but they just in a barn. You don't let them out to run. And then, somebody else get them, like, okay, man, this horse is just in his barn. You gonna sell him to me? And then the next thing you know is it won a Kentucky Derby. So they making the right decisions. They just not making the right decisions, if you get what I'm saying. They making the right decisions when picking these guys, but they're not making the right decisions when it comes to developing these guys and putting them in the right position to succeed. So it's good, it's a good thing. It is a bad thing too, right? I mean, it's not to a point where it's like, oh man, we're doomed. Like, if even I had to kind of tinker a little bit with my take when it comes to like Jeff Ireland. Like, I had to really think about that. Like, especially like when I started seeing players go to other teams and live up to their true potential. That made me concede that I was wrong about Jeff Ireland. Like, we're wrong about Jeff Ireland when it comes to his scouting. Like, if you say, oh man, Jeff Ireland don't know what he's doing, like, I'm saying this on record. My take, if you go back and I'm talking about Jeff Ireland and he needs to go, that I was completely wrong for that, because he's doing a good job. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Like, he's going to the store, getting the groceries. Somebody just burning the mills, man. So I retract my statement on Jeff Ireland, because he's doing the right things. Like, and if I can sit up here and talk about how questionable it was, I can sit up here and say to you that I was wrong about the whole Jeff Ireland thing, because he's doing the right things. What they need to do is work on getting coaches in here to develop these players, plain and simple. So in that regard, I apologize to Jeff Ireland, because he's doing a good job. They just need to utilize these players that he's drafting. I mean, in some cases, all right. I mean, they got a few out here that you like, I don't know, man. Josh says, Barb, if Derek comes up missing, they're going to know to talk to you. Arrogant Rodgers. Arrogant. Rodgers is not coming to New Orleans. Shout out to T Dirty for the note short video he did on Sunday night. I'm gonna have to check that out, man. I've been kind of out of pocket over the last couple of days, man. I mean, it's been some exciting stuff. I coached my first flag football game. I coached my son's team. The coach was out of town for the weekend, so I got an opportunity to do that. That was pretty fun, man. Just seeing those little guys out there, man, giving it they all. And also, man, I just got back from Atlanta. Just got back. Like, I ain't even been here for like 3 hours yet, if you're watching this live. So yeah, man, it's been a pretty hectic couple of days, but all in all, man, I mean, it's been pretty good, but I'll make sure I check out T Dirty video. Make sure, I check it out. Y'all make sure y'all check it out as well, man. He puts a lot of pride into his work. Blame Allen for not utilizing Bourne the right way. Yeah, I mean, it's that, and not being willing to make that tough decision about the direction of the team. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, will we be having this conversation if the Saints decided, and this isn't popular opinion, but a decision should have been made. Like, think about now, you probably would have got mad at the time, but if it would have worked out the way that it worked out for Philadelphia, you probably been like, okay, I understand. What if the New Orleans Saints would have let Pete Warner walk? Like, instead of like giving him that 3-year extension, like allowing him to walk or whatever, right? Or like maybe not signing. This is really unpopular opinion. If they didn't re-sign Demario Davis, if they let him go a couple of years early, and he probably will still be out there balling, have people mad. But what if Zach Bond would have been in that spot and played the way that he did? Would you have been upset if that would have happened? But I mean, these are like these are the tough conversations that teams have all the time, and they're unpopular decisions, but organizations have them. And if Zach Bond ends up being what he is right now, and you lose Demario Davis, even though he's a fan favorite, nobody would care. Not to that point. Like Demario still come back to the Superdome and get a hero's welcome, but it wouldn't be to a point where it's like, dang, we really missing something. You only feel like you're missing something when something is lacking, right? Like, I'm trying to think of a player, okay? Trying to think of a fan, okay. Darren Sproles. We all love Darren Sproles, right? Everybody was talking about, man, the Saints need to bring back Darren Sproles. But when Alvin Kamara came a couple of years later, like, nobody was clamoring for no Darren Sproles because Alvin Kamara filled that void and kind of, elevated the position. We love our fan favorites, but when somebody exceeds those expectations, nobody cares. Here's another perfect example. They didn't play the same position, but he didn't make you miss this individual. When the Saints traded Jimmy Graham to the Seattle Seahawks for Max Unger, people were like, man, why would you trade Jimmy Graham? 16 touchdowns, yada, yada, yada. Man, him and Gronk was going neck and neck. Max Unger came to New Orleans Saints and solidified that offensive line. Only one penalty the entire time he played for the New Orleans Saints. One. And even that penalty was questionable. Go back and watch. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Like, you miss Jimmy Graham, but you got Max Unger, so you kind of understand. You only miss things when the thing that was replaced, we're replacing the thing that you miss is lacking. So I don't know, man, but teams make these tough decisions all the time, ladies and gentlemen. Like, that's why you can't always put your emotions ahead of what is best for the team. And I feel like sometimes the Saints do that a little bit too much. Like, I'm not saying throw the players away like garbage, treat them like trash. None of that stuff there, folks. But I do think that you have to make some tough decisions. That's just a part of it. That's just the breaks. That's just the way that it goes, man. Let's see. Platinum Obama, Aaron didn't want to come here. He trying to get to a Super Bowl next year. Well, I mean, at this point, I'm just wondering, like, will he be able to go to a contender? Like, I respect Aaron Rodgers as a football player. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks of his generation. But, I mean, you're 41 years old. You came off a Achilles injury. You didn't play your best football. I'm willing to give individuals a pass if they play for the Jets, because for some apparent reason, the Jets just brings out the worst in individuals. And, based on, things that I've heard about their organization, it just seems like pieces of those players end up dying a slow, horrible death upon signing with the Jets. So I'm going to let that slide. But I do wonder, in a new regime, what the Saints are trying to do. Like, would that be a good fit for the New Orleans Saints? And I would say absolutely not, man. I just think that Aaron Rodgers' personality will clash with individuals. And, Aaron Rodgers is one of those individuals that he has like that FU money. And y'all know what I mean when I say that. Like, I ain't got to sit up here and take this. Like, if I don't like something, I can say it. What are you going to do? Let me go? What are you going to do? Cut me? Like, that's kind of what he is. Like, normally, you don't really see, anybody trying to buck the system when they're young, inexperienced, on a rookie deal. You get what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden they get that contract, and it's kind of like what, Ryan Clark said about Antonio Brown. Said he told the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, if you pay him, you're going to create a monster. So sometimes, those organizations do that. Like, those players, they go out there and, to their credit, they earn the money. So, but at the same time, like, will they be that same person? Will they, be mild-mannered? Will they not be sitting up here being difficult, right, when I give them this bread? Aaron Rodgers, to me, is marching to the beat of his own drum. He feels like his career is pretty much solidified. I mean, his gold jacket is pretty much just hanging in somebody's closet or something like that, or the fabric is just ready for it to be, sewed into his, to his size. That's it. But I don't think that will be a good fit for the New Orleans Saints. Do I feel like they will win some football games with him? Absolutely. I mean, because he's a smart football player. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. But I just don't think that the New Orleans Saints need that. I think that those are the type of decisions that you make when you're a team that's a legit contender. Like, when you actually playing for something. I feel like if you are on a cusp of playoff contention, like on a consistent basis, and maybe, you just need that bridge guy to come in, and then next year, maybe we can get that guy, or maybe that quarterback just needs a year to sit on a bench and Aaron Rodgers can fill that void. And then next year, we're going to be ready to rock. Kind of like Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. But that's not the case with the Saints. We've been saying this over and over again, Who Dat Nation and sports fans that's watching this podcast right now, that the New Orleans Saints need a completely different look. They need an overhaul, right? They need somebody to make them over. So Aaron Rodgers is not the answer that you need right now. The Saints need to get younger and rely on this coaching staff to develop these players. And I know that Saints fans and that's just NFL fans in general, they want to win. I mean, I would like to see the Saints win. You would like to see the Saints win, but you also want to have sustainable success. Like, I'm not looking at what Atlanta doing or Tampa doing or Carolina. Like, you want continual success. Yes, the team can like build with free agents and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they'll probably win one. And then they'll get knocked off the mountain. And, all of a sudden, like they can't even climb back up there again. So you want sustainable success. Like what Detroit is building, like it ended in a very disappointing way for them. A lot of people thought that they were going to be the team to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. But at the same time, I guarantee you, if you're a Detroit Lions fan, based on where you've been and what you are now, you're optimistic about it. Like, yeah, we lost, but who do we actually lose? Everybody, for the most part, is coming back. I mean, you still got a young Terrion Arnold. You got questions at, what you're going to do with Carlton Davis, but you can actually get another cornerback in the draft. You got really good running backs. You got really good receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown already locked up. You still got Sam Laporta on a rookie deal. You still can make some noise. And, now you can sign your offensive lineman. That's sustainable success. That's what you want. I don't want to just sit up here and be like, oh, man, Aaron Rodgers, oh, man, that's great. Like, yeah, probably for a year, win you some games, probably make you feel good about yourself. But this is a 41-year-old quarterback that we're talking about here, right? And you can probably replicate look, we got to be honest. You can replicate what Tampa did, hopefully. They basically just kind of looked up, but in that situation, you lose Tom Brady and then you get a ticked off Baker Mayfield who would have thought was a pretty good quarterback. I mean, I said that, but hey, it is what it is. You might luck into a situation like that. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers might come in and, provide a spark, and then by that time, Spencer Rattler be ready to go. But I would rather roll with Spencer Rattler and go through the motions with him as the quarterback than to be sitting up here pretending like we actually contending for something and trying to win something, because we know that this is not going to be an easy fix. So with that whole Aaron Rodgers situation, I just think that is a huge, huge waste of time. Saints fans need to be patient. Moore called a great game for the Super Bowl. It's going to take time before we get back into playoff contention. Well, I'm going to say this. If you can draft well over the next couple of years, I think you can be back into playoff contention. I mean, it's not like we're talking about, it's not like we're talking about the AFC North up in this thing. Like, we're talking about the NFC South. No disrespect to anybody in the South, but your teams aren't that good. They're just not. They're not that good, and they're all just trying to figure this joint out. But so if you can actually get some talented guys through the draft, and combine them with the players that you already have on your team, I think you can be right back into it. But you got to hurry up, because these other teams aren't just sitting around and say, man, y'all ready, Saints? No, right? They trying to build their team so they can be a contender and take over the NFC South and have a stranglehold on the division themselves. So the Saints going to have to figure it out. But they play in a division that a lot of these teams, or all of these teams rather, have a lot of question marks. So that's the best thing in a best case scenario for the New Orleans Saints, is that they are playing in a division that has a lot of question marks. If this was the AFC North, like I would echo your sentiments. But I think that, get some really good draft picks, get a good draft going. I think you can get yourself back to some respectable football. We got pick 9 is due to offensive line, defensive line, wide receiver, safety, and tight end. Perhaps move tradable assets to amass more draft picks in the rebuild. Yeah, I mean, if you can find somebody that will be a good suitor, give you some good draft capital, yeah. I would say yes. I don't think that the Saints need to be making trades with anybody that means that they would have to lose one of their draft picks. I don't think that you're as stacked. I think that's the issue. There was a few years ago, the Saints only had like 4 draft picks in the draft, like something like that. Like, you got to be able to like build this team. Like, a lot of these teams, they find success because they end up building through the draft. It's kind of like what 2017 is or was for the New Orleans Saints, but it actually worked. Like, other teams, if they would have had a draft like the Saints, they probably would have went to the Super Bowl, and they probably would have won the Super Bowl. What happened to the Saints was like lightning in a bottle. Like, you caught lightning in a bottle in 2017. Right? So, but all I'm saying is build through the draft, build up your players, and yeah, when 2026 come, we got this going. Oh man, he's right on time, man. He started to develop. Okay, let's go out here and get this free agent right here, man. We just need to seal up this particular side of the line, or we need to seal up the secondary. I mean, you'll be able to do that, right? If you go out here and you draft players and develop them, then you don't have to go out here and exhaust the salary cap, because you have those young players, and then you can create a whole different window for yourself. Especially like if Spencer Rattler works. Like, if Spencer Rattler works, this is why I want Saints fans to understand. Like, while you're sitting up here arguing, oh man, he ain't the future, he ain't the future, he ain't the future. It's you want Spencer Rattler to work. If you're a Saints fan and you want to see this team win, you want Spencer Rattler to work, because Spencer Rattler is a 5th round draft pick, which means that he's not demanding much of the cap. So if he goes out there and he lights it up, or he plays respectable football or playoff caliber football, guess what? When the Saints do get back into the black, they can actually go out here accompanied by the draft picks that they have. They can actually get some players that can actually fill that void. How do you think the 49ers have found success? How did they find their way to the Super Bowl? Brock freaking Purdy, a 7th round pick. Now I can go out here, man. I can make a trade for Chase Young. I can go out here and get Christian McCaffrey. I can make my team dominant because I got time, because I ain't got to pay this 7th round pick for another couple of years. This is why you want Spencer Rattler to work. So all this going back and forth, oh man, he ain't the future, he ain't the future, he ain't the future. You know how much money you save? Now, if he doesn't work out and you get a 1st round pick or whatever like that, I mean, we already know. You know what I'm saying? If you're picking number 1 he's going to get the majority of the money. Now it's completely different, but all I'm saying is eventually you're going to have to pay this dude. You have to pay him. You ain't paying much right now for Spencer Rattler. You ain't paying much for that. I like Spencer, but that's just the truth. That's what comes with being a 5th round pick. So I don't get the angle. I don't understand why people sitting up here arguing, getting mad, and man, he ain't the future. He ain't this. He ain't that. We need to go out here and sign. Like, look, I like Justin Fields, but if Spencer Rattler, if the Saints have Spencer Rattler, and Spencer Rattler comes to offseason activities and be looking like a completely different version, I wouldn't even be thinking about no Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields. But Justin Fields is not going to help the Saints. He'll help them for like a short period of time. But guess what? If he goes out there and light it up, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money. He's a young 20-something-year-old quarterback. So you're going to have to pay him a lot of money. And guess what? You're going to find yourself being in the same situation again if you're not drafting right and you're not developing these players. Now you got one player that dominates the majority of the cap, and you're still in the same situation. So they need to change the way that they think. They need to change the way that they develop. And if you're a Saints fan, you may not be this guy's biggest fan, but you want to hope that Spencer Rattler lives up to the hype. Because if he does that, then guess what, ladies and gentlemen, sports fans everywhere, the Saints will be back quicker than you even anticipated. And that's real. All right, but I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Got 493 people watching this right now, man. I'm really appreciative of that. I just ask that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. All right, subscribe to the channel. Also show your support by, liking and sharing these videos. Also, the NFC South Roundtable is available. NFC South Roundtable. All you have to do is search that on YouTube. Also, Saints Talk with Timothy J. Jones every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Bleacher Report. So make sure that you all check those out, subscribe to those, follow those. And I thank each and every one of you in the chat right now for making this show what it is. Very interactive podcast. For those that may not know, we're extremely interactive. And all you got to do is just subscribe to the channel and you can be a part of the conversation. All right. So I really do appreciate it. I'll make sure that we'll be back later on in the week. Coming up this week, I have Ross Jackson who will be on the show this week. And I'm actually working on getting another Saints beat writer as well to be a part of the show. Also, coming up next week, I'll be traveling to Indianapolis to cover the NFL Combine. So I'll be there giving you all the information, talking a little bit about the process and chopping it up with you all, taking your questions, and also just getting information out there that can possibly help this New Orleans Saints team get back on a winning track. Till next time, all I got to say is,
thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.